Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our regular council meeting of January 30th. We'll just wait for that. There we go. I want to welcome members of the public that are here with us and watching on our YouTube channel. Just to remind the public that are here in attendance that this is an open meeting. Unfortunately, there is no opportunity to address council at this time. If there is something you would like to say, you're more than willing to submit it to the clerk's department or ask for a delegation at the next council meeting. Outbursts and applause and stuff will not be tolerated as well. So I just want to remind everybody of that. May I please have the calling of the roll, clerk?
Mayor Sidney.
Present.
Revimo.
Present.
Councillor Legree.
Present.
Councillor McWhirter.
Present.
Councillor MacDonald.
Present.
Councillor Zawalski. Just checking to see. He may be joining us online, just can't see yet. Has not attended online just yet. Councillor Andrew Dick.
Present.
Mayor Sidney, we have quorum.
Thank you very much. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Can I please have you stand for O Canada? Any declarations of interest from council? Hearing and seeing none. Moving on to C, presentations. C1, the tabling of the 2024 draft budget. I just want to remind council before we start that this is just the tabling of the budget. So what will happen is once it's presented here, it will then, the departments will be back to committee with a in-depth at their review of their budget per department, and then it will come back to council as a committee of the whole at the end of February, I believe, for further discussion and look at it and stuff like that. So it's being tabled today, goes to committee, comes back to committee of the whole for final discussion and stuff like that. So with that, I would like to turn it over to our acting treasurer, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. So today we're here to table the draft budget. And first of all, I'd like to thank the former treasurer, Erin Broom, because she completed most of this budget, and then I had to sit down with all the department heads and staff, which were very helpful, and I certainly appreciate all the help that I've received over the last 3.5 weeks that I've been here. So thank you again.
It's coming. Helps when I plug in the computer. Sorry. One more time, Nate.
Do you want me to just go ahead and you'll catch up? Okay, so currently we're at the budget schedule and the tabling of the draft budget today, and you'll see all the other committee meetings, corporate finance, development, environmental, facilities, fire, community services, and economic development, and committee of the whole sitting on February 20th, and then hopefully budget adoption at the end of February 27th at 6 p.m. So a tax levy explained. So a tax levy equals all expenses less grants, less user fees, less transfers from reserves. And then the levy is the amount to be raised through taxes after all other revenue is collected. Your tax dollar, so only a portion of your tax dollar is sent to the town. So for every $100, as an example, the town receives $66 of that. 24, and this is based on last year's tax rate breakdown, and $24 would go to the county and $10 to education. I do know that the education tax rate has not changed moving into 2024. I do know that the county has passed their budget and there is an increase, but at present we don't have the tax rate impact. We'll get that a little later on. So there's budget pressures that we experienced this year. So we have wages and benefits. Wages are an average of 2% increase across the board. Inflation, so your CPI index as of November 2023 is 3.1%. December is 3.4%. Interest rates, January 29th, the prime rate is at 7.2%, but typically we don't borrow at that rate. We borrow through Infrastructure Ontario, which is a lot less. Insurance renewals occurring mid-year with an estimated increase of 20%. Assumed responsibility for the Mill Museum operations and the provision of bylaw services in-house. So that's a new expense this year. Operational impact of the MyFM Center, including debt. And transfers to some reserves have been cut in half to help us reduce the overall tax levy impact. I do want to point out that this impact will, this reduction will impact the tax levy in 2025 when the full transfers are reintroduced. So external funding. So we receive the OSIF grant, which is the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. It has increased $194,000. Our Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, the OMF allocation, it has increased $60,700, and our Canada Community Building Fund, which used to be the federal gas tax, it decreased by $14,638. And So I just wanted to outline as well the strategies from our strategic plan. So they're all listed there. I won't go through each one, but we took, staff takes into consideration the strategic plan when looking at projects and looking at budget moving forward. That is an important part of what staff looks at when we look at budget. Our operating revenues by type. Taxation is 58% of our overall revenue. Other municipalities, and that is, when we provide service to other municipalities and they pay us back for those services, is 1%. Transfer from reserves, 1%. Ontario and federal grants, which includes the UMP fund and summer student grants, 17%. Tenants and property rental, 7%. Fees and charges and other is 17%. So that's a good outlook for our operating revenues. Our tax-supported operating expenses, you'll see the largest portion is the salaries and benefits, and then principal and interest on long-term debt. Professional services, you'll see all the percentages there. I don't really need to go over each one individually unless you want me to. The 2024 payroll compensation budget. So total full-time equivalent count is 75.4. Total payroll budget this year will be $8,878,504, where 2023 was $8,163,280. Our summer students have gone up by 1 for 2024 compared to 2023. Our cost of living adjustment, as earlier said, was 2%. And then due to organizational changes, salary allocations have been adjusted between departments. So as council knows, there was some shifting around of some staffing, and we shifted them between the departments as well for the salaries. And then there are new positions that have been created for a number of reasons. 3 at the MyFM Center, 2.4 for Bylaw, 3.1 for museum. So those 2 areas we took over that were existing, and now the town of Renfrew is looking after that. And then 2 new for finance per the finance services review and Mattaway third-party review. And one of those should be starting in a couple weeks. So that's good to see. 2024 transfers to and from reserves. We're looking at, so this is what we've allocated to reserves in 2024 in the financing of the capital projects or the other types of projects that come out of reserves. So the final total, we went from 15 million, which is unaudited, by the way, at the end of 2023 to 11.6 million we anticipate by the end of 2024. The next slide is just a reserve analysis with regards to transfers to and from reserves over an 8-year comparison, which excludes the water and wastewater. And the deferred revenue analysis is the federal gas tax and the OSIF funding that we get, and that outlines what we normally get every year, and it's up and down depending on the projects that we are doing and how we're funding them. So the transfers out of reserves depends on the projects that we've identified that can be allocated to those reserves or deferred revenues, as they call it. Existing long-term debt. So I wanted to outline all the debt that we have to date, including the internal debt, just so that doesn't get lost in the shuffle as well. So we have the water treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant, solar installations, landfill equipment, and Raglan Street downtown reconstruction. So you'll see the earliest one comes off in 2027, being the water treatment plant. The internal debt, LED street lighting and Mattaway Arena roof replacement, and that's we're funding within our own funds. Long-term debt, annual repayment limit. So that an annual repayment limit is defined as the maximum amount of principal and interest that a municipality can repay each year. In 2024, the town of Renfrew has $3.2 million remaining in their annual repayment limit, which is good. That means we have enough to borrow money moving forward. So it's just the principal and interest per year, those payments. So as long as we don't go over $3.2 million in borrowing, we're good. So the ministry does this calculation, and it's actually done through our financial information return, and they calculate it at 25% of the municipality's own source revenue. So they take the revenue and times it by 25%, and then they subtract the debt that we have existing and other financial obligations to determine the ARL, or the annual repayment limit. Then we go to the debenture options for the Mattaway expansion project. So this is just an overall slide just to let you know what we might look at for payment options. And I've given you the total payment for the year, principal and interest amounts, and then the total interest over, so it says up here over 30 years, because I was just going to do 30 years, but it's based off 30-year, 25-year, and 20 years. So that column should just total interest over years. Questions and answers with regards to this section?
Any questions from council of this part? No? No? We're good?
Okay, then we'll move on to the capital projects, and we're going to highlight some of those. So this is the listing of capital projects by department and how they're funded. So the Development, Environmental, and Engineering Department, there is a carryover of projects that were in the queue from 2023, and they're carried over because it is a 2-year project and sometimes a 3-year project of $12 million. New for 2024 is 5.6, and we're funding. What I like to see is any project that's under $20,000 to be funded directly out of taxation instead of, because what in the past you've been doing is putting it into reserves and taking it out of reserves. Just fund the projects under $20,000 right out of taxation. It amounts to the same thing. It just shows that that's out of taxation. So $33,000, 3.6, almost 3.7 for a grant. We're borrowing 6.9, almost 7 million for a project. DC charges and reserves 6.9, almost 7 million out of reserves. The community services and economic development, there's 100,000 carried over from 2023. In 2024, we have 212,000. 23,000 out of taxation, 148,000 for a grant, and 141,000 out of reserves. Facilities, maintenance, and operations. So this includes the MyFM Center. So this is the total amount of the whole project because it has not been completely financed yet when we get to the borrowing. And the grant has been applied for as the funds come in, and as the expenses go out, we apply as we go for the funds to come in. So $33,242,000 includes all the projects for facilities maintenance and operations for the carryover of 2023. 2024, there's a $379,000, $54,000 out of taxation, $11 million grant, which is the Mattaway or MyFM Center, $17 million for the MyFM Center. DC charges $173,000 and reserves $541,000, and other is $4,045,000. Fire, emergency, and protective services $25,000 carryover, $108,000 for 2024, $10,000 out of taxation, $25,000 out of DC charges, and $98,000 out of reserves. Corporate finance and HR, so $156,000 a carryover, $188,000 for 2024, and 6.6 out of taxation and $338 out of reserves. So our grand total for capital projects this year is $52,355,908. So it's lots of work that's hopefully going to get done. This just outlines the capital projects by schedule: equipment, rolling stock, facilities, roads, studies, and others. You'll see there's quite a bit of work under roads and the facilities, of course, which includes the MyFM. And again, it's $52 million. Road capital projects. So we're just going to highlight the road projects. Council does have the overall capital schedules. We're not going to go through those on the overall presentation tonight. We'll do that later on at each committee, and then when we bring it back to council, we'll go over it again. So if you want to go to the next slide. So this outlines where in the roads, and it's kind of hard to see, but the colored sections are the project summaries that we're going to be doing in 2024, as well as some of the ones that are being picked up from 2023. So first one is Argyle Street and Hall Avenue. It's construction of 1.4 kilometers. There's road, water, sanitary, storm, and sidewalk and multi-use path. And I wanted to make sure that we showed the public as well as council where those sections are, so that everybody understands where that's being completed. Dominion Street, Lynn Street, and Quarry Avenue. Construction again, length of 700 meters. The phase of scope is road, water, sanitary, storm, sidewalk, multi-use path. 8th Street is construction as well. Length is 425 meters. Road, water, sanitary, storm, sidewalk, multi-use path. Hall Avenue extension. This is a design only, and it's a length of 1.1 kilometers. And the design will be covered by road, water, sanitary, and storm. Hall Avenue and Robert Drive. This as well is a design project for a length of 1.6 kilometers, and it's road, water, sanitary, storm, lighting, and sidewalk multi-use pathway. The reason why we like to get the design obviously done first, sometimes when there's grants available, we want to make sure that we're shovel ready, and they only seem to give grants to the projects that are shovel ready. So the more shovel ready projects that we have, when a grant becomes available, the better off we are as a town to align with those grants. Mattaway Opeongo Road connection. So this is the connection that we're looking at to have a second entryway into Mattaway area, MyFM Center. It's design, length of 1.3 kilometers, and it's road and water only. Monroe Avenue East and Harry Street. So this is, again, is a design, 700 meters. Road, water, sanitary, storm, sidewalk, multi-use pathway. O'Brien Road, this is construction, length is 2 kilometers. Road, water, sanitary, storm, lighting, sidewalk, and multi-use pathway. Opeongo Road asphalt rehabilitation, so it's design only, and it's a length of 1.8 kilometers, and it's 100% road. And just for your information, the reason why we break it down is for asset management purposes, because we have to associate a percentage or a cost to each individual asset, and that's why it's split up this way. 7th Street, design and construction, 425 meters, and it's road 100%. Stevenson Crescent is design and construction, a length of 675 meters, and it's 100% road. Whitten Road, it's design only, a length of 1.02 kilometers, road, water, sanitary, and storm. Then we go on to the water wastewater 2024 budget. So just an overview of revenue for the water is 2.9 million, wastewater is 2.7. Expenditures are the same. Transfers to reserves, water is 664,000 and wastewater is 158,000. Consumption rates, your water rate went from $2.75 to $2.82, and wastewater rate went from $2.44 to $2.46. Base rates, water rate from $44.84 to $47.52, wastewater rate from $49.42 to $49.92, and based on regular meter size, other sizes increased proportionately. Total bill increased 2.5% overall for both water and wastewater. So the capital projects for water and wastewater, there's Elgin Street Sewer, and this is the design only, and its length is 800 meters, and it's road, water, and sanitary, and the biggest one is the sanitary because the reason why it's being completed is for the sewer project or the sanitary sewer project. Mattaway water main, it's a design only, a length of 700 meters, road at 20% and water at 80%. And again, it's due to the water main that it's being designed and constructed, but it's just design right now, and that's why the biggest portion is on water. O'Brien Road Pumping Station, this is a design and a replacement, and it's 100% sanitary. So it's above the road, so it doesn't affect the road at all. So your total budget, your total tax-supported operating budget is $11,138,396. Your total water budget is $2.9 million, total wastewater $2.7, and your total capital budget $52 million, for a total budget of $69,153,788. So the tax levy, the 2024 impact and growth, so this is kind of a draft, just so you know. So how much money levy is required for capital and operating expense. So our 2024 levy is 11.1 million. Last year in 2023 was 10 million, and the difference is 941,000. So the percentage increase, you'll note that a 1% levy increase is the equivalent of $100,631. So your levy is 10.7% increase. Your growth is 1.28%. So the impact on a tax, on a ratepayer is 9.42%. The reason why we show that is, so your growth is what has been built in the town that has arrived on the assessment for 2024, that if there was no increase to the levy, it would not have an impact. We could increase the levy 1.28% and it would not have an impact on the overall ratepayer. So we take that growth off and it becomes 9.42% impact to the ratepayer. So this represents, and I did a quick calculation, on an estimated 100,000 assessment based on tax rates that are calculated at $134.88 for the year, based on 100,000 assessment, and based on an average household $230.65 per property per year, per average household. Any questions?
You see, Trumbull, you wanted...
If I may, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to Charlene, and she's been with us for a very short time but was able to deliver the budget, and we thank her. Also for the staff team. I just wanted to note that for the public, that there will be a public meeting on February 20th, and any comments or questions can be received before then, but they can also register to speak at that meeting when council will come back after detailed analysis at each of the 5 standing committees over the month of February. Council did direct us to bring back a 3% budget. However, due to the difficulty difficult budget that we're seeing, we were unable to achieve that, even though we attempted our best efforts to do that. As the acting treasurer has noted, we have, where we can, cut contributions to reserves while still maintaining, at the end of 2024, $11 million, which is pretty important to be able to do future road works. And we've outlined to council and the community the important investments that are going to happen in our roads, and both in terms of the condition, and we understand that there's a lot of work to do on our roads, and that is one of the key components of our strategic plan. But there are also some key projects there that we're designing that are meant to make sure that we're ready for growth. For instance, the Elgin sewer work is really about accommodating growth in that part of town. The O'Brien pumping station, as an example, will accommodate growth at the other end of town. So there's some important investment in roads. I just want to also note that we've also curtailed or pushed back many of the fleet equipment, facilities, studies, and the rest, so that most of the capital work is in roads, understanding that they're of strategic importance to council. I also want to note that a $35 million facility is going to be online for the town. It is a major investment in the future of the town. That comes with some operating pressures, and this budget is seeing those impacts. But I do want to recognize the importance of that facility for the future of the town, and that we have a number of recreation agreements with surrounding townships that we will negotiate over the course of the year. But it is a significant investment in the town, its facilities, and the future. I also want to note that we're maintaining services, and as outlined by the acting treasurer, the McDougall Mill Museum has asked us to assume operations because the aging volunteer base can no longer do that, and council has, after a bylaw services review, brought in bylaw services to increase the level of service. So those are strategic decisions council made, and they're reflected in here, and we're able to maintain the other levels of service. And organizational changes that have occurred as a result of numerous reviews. So we've done a finance services review, a winter-summer maintenance review, and the Mattaway third-party review, where expert third-party consultants have made some strategic recommendations for us that we're trying to implement to ensure that we're ready for the future and that we're improving processes and our services going forward. So this budget accomplishes that. So although we haven't achieved the 3%, we've done our best to bring forward a budget that accomplishes some strategic initiatives, maintains services, but is a true reflection of some of the pressures the town is under. I should note that other municipalities in Renfrew County are also facing pressures, and nearby townships are in the double digits in terms of their budget increases. So we've done our best here, and thanks to the team, and especially Charlene and the finance team for, in a short period of time, bringing this together. But we will have detailed review for council at each of the standing committees, and we'll bring this back on the 20th, where we'll also hear from the public. So just wanted to note that we're leaving you with some information to digest over the course of the next month before a final budget is approved. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Hey, any questions? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the CAO. With regard to page 16 in the debenture options, we have a full 17 million estimate at this point in time. The first question is, what does staff recommend? You've got the 30, the 25, and the 20, because there's going to be a different rate we're paying in terms of the total payment. So that's going to reflect the budgetary pressures, which I understand. So that's the first part of the question. The second one, with regard to basically, let's round it to 9.5% right now in terms of the effect of the tax. What percentage of that 9.5 is for Mattaway? Because there's going to be some changes taking place. If we want to go with a 20-year amortization debenture compared to a 30-year, that's going to be reflective. So what percentage with regard to the impact with regard to that final tax levy, and what does staff recommend? So those are the two parts. Thank you.
Certainly, and I'll ask the acting treasurer to correct me if I get this wrong. But basically, what's included in the budget is a 30-year amortized debenture, so an impact of $1.074 million. One thing to keep in mind, just like my house has a useful life, facilities have a useful life, and a 30-year debenture is not out of the question for a facility of this size and magnitude that will be there for many years to go. Council can, though, look at the time when the project is substantially completed and we go to Infrastructure Ontario to lock in the debenture, council can look at, and we'll have final cost by then, and we'll have completed all our negotiations with all the tenants, for example, the Algonquin Bonashir, who are an important partner in this project. So that can be changed at the time of finalizing the debenture, which will happen later this year. But for the purposes of this budget, we've included 30-year amortization, so 1.0. As the acting treasurer noted, the impact of the levy, $100,000 approximately is 1% on the levy. So the impact of the debt alone is about 10%. And what the acting treasurer has presented you is a levy increase of $900,000. So what that means is we've found the money elsewhere to offset the debt. In addition, while New Mattaway will have new revenues, and we've estimated those, it will also have new operating pressures. So utilities, staffing costs. We prepared a separate report on the MyFM Center, which showed it's 3 positions, but we had to increase staffing by 20%. So the debt alone is the equivalent of a 10% levy increase, but there's also kind of the forecasting on what operationally it will cost. And to be fair, we will only get a true sense of operating costs, because these are new building systems that are usually more cost effective than older buildings that we have, say, at the rec center. So we'll get a better sense of that in reality after a few months of operation. And we will also get a sense of demand in terms of revenue generation. So I know our community services team is hard at work programming and getting partners into that building and using the spaces. Our economic development team has finalized the leases with the tenants, which will also bring sources of revenue. But we will get a better sense of those true operating costs once we're in the building fully, and then we'll have a better sense. But so I would just say the MyFM Center has had 2 impacts: one operationally and the costs. Yes, there's increased revenue, but there is increased costs. And secondly, the debenture. But council will have the opportunity to make some decisions on the term of the debenture. But as the acting treasurer also denoted, we have $3.2 million in annual repayment limit, and this will take $1 million, which still leaves about $2.2 million. So leaves a lot of room. So if $17 million of debt is costing us $1 million a year, that means we have over $30 million of debt room left. So we're still in a good place from a debt perspective. And with, I would say, across the sector, with aging infrastructure that has been touched in 20, 30 years, at some point needs to be dealt with, including old pipes under roads such as Argyle, we will have to use debt. We're not the town of Petawawa that can rely on the base and it's the money that it gets, or growth. We're hoping growth will come. So most municipalities in Ontario, including large ones, use debt to fund major infrastructure renewal. So this budget speaks to that. But if I can just go back, your question, debt alone is would have a 10% impact, and we're able to offset that with other things that we were able to do in this budget, including reducing some contributions to reserves to be able to accomplish that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. Through you, I just want to touch base on the roads. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's going to be 6 constructed this year in construction phase. These are the numbers I have. I might be off by 1 or 2.
The important ones, and Director Withers or the acting treasurer can add, Dominion, Lynn, and Quarry were designed earlier, and 8th Street, so those are coming online. We've added 7th and Stevenson, and we're completing the Argyle, Lockheil, small part of Hall, small part of Opiongo. And then there are a number of roads that we're getting ready for the next year, which is the rest of Opiongo, the rest of Hall, the Elgin Street Sewer Project would have a road component, the Mattaway water main project would allow us to improve that road, the Mattaway connection, the Hall Avenue connection. But Dominion, Lynn, 8th, 7th, and Stevenson, and completing Argyle, Lockheil are really the road construction or the road rehab projects for this year.
Okay, thank you, CEO Tremblay. I think what the point I'm trying to get to is what roads were already designed and approved pre our election. So that's what I want to know, because we're showing, so from what I'm seeing, we're seeing 6 roads that are going to be constructed this summer. Did that have anything to do with this council, or was this already designed, approved by the old council?
Dominion and Lynn, I believe was started, you confirmed those last year, but I believe that was started previously, same for 8th.
Okay.
So the ones that we've added this year that will be constructed this year, which are essentially, they're not, we'd like to call them shave and paves, but they're a little bit more than a shave and pave. They're a bit of a rehab. That would be Stevenson and 7th we've added to the mix. And then we're proceeding to those this year in terms of design and doing them. So we're trying to get to the shave and pave roads where we can. And it makes sense if we're doing 8th, if you've driven down 8th going to McDonald's. I'm drinking a McDonald's coffee. You may have noticed 7th is in about the same shape, so it made sense to do 7th and 8th. And Stevenson is a school zone and made sense to be able to do that as well. So we've added 7th and Stevenson to this budget to complete this year.
Okay, thank you. If I can continue, Mayor Sidney. I think, just speaking out loud, because this is the draft budget, I think maybe we should throw out some of these designs and maybe pave a few more roads in the town. I'm just throwing that out there. I think this council ran that we wanted to fix more roads. I'm seeing 2 extra roads. So anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. This is a draft budget. And I just, you know, I know you guys know where I stand with the roads. You've heard me scream at the top of my lungs. So I'm throwing that out there from my side. Okay, thank you.
If I can just add, Mr. Mayor, we did look at the Hall Avenue, the rest of Hall Avenue with the MUP. It's in excess of $2 million. And there is some sewer work that needs to be engineered. So same thing, best to have a shovel-ready job that's ready to go. And we've looked at other jobs, like the rest of Opiongo, there's some rock and some stormwater issues, so it kind of needs to be looked at before we can do it. So, and the Elgin Road needs to be done. So what we're hoping will happen now that the team's in place and we've reorged is that we actually get to council before the next budget with a true 10-year capital plan, where we really get a sense of the roads that can be shaved and paved in a cost-effective way versus the roads that do need pipe replacements, because that just increases the cost. Monroe, as an example, I think we're sitting at $5 million. So we're going to be making sure that's shovel-ready and we can get a federal provincial grant to try to offset some of those costs. I should also note that O'Brien, the last piece of connecting links, is getting done this year, and we're doing the design on innovation in Whitten. So sometimes you have to get, and I think we've learned this with the Mattaway project, sometimes the year to make sure things are shovel-ready and fully designed and all issues have been addressed in advance help us. But we'll get a better sense with the engineering team and the 10-year capital plan which roads we can do a quick rehab on or we can do a shave and pave, and we're hoping to bring that, a prioritized list to council before the 2025 budget.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor Sidney, through you. So now switching over to the tax levy. So just to confirm, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, right now the draft budget is sitting at a 10.7% tax levy. So out of that 10.7, I might have missed this because that was a lot of information. Out of that 10.7 is 5% going towards the Mattaway debenture? Can you break it down exactly? Out of the 10.7, what's going to Mattaway? What's going for our increases? Like, can you break that 10.7, or is it just somehow?
I'll start and then pass it over to the acting treasurer. The debt payment on Mattaway alone is in excess of $1 million. The difference between last year's levy and this year's levy, so the money we have to bring in from taxes, is $941. So essentially we've found savings elsewhere. The levy increase is less than the debt impact. So the debt alone on Mattaway is over $1 million. What we're saying to you is, based on the draft that Charlene's been able to present with the help of the other staff, we need $941,000. Well, we know Mattaway debt alone is in excess of $1 million. So what that means is we found the money elsewhere. So we found the money elsewhere in terms of the 2% contract agreements for the 3 unions. The operating impacts of Mattaway, all the contributions to reserve, the rest of it. So we were able, if I can say, to eat the Mattaway debt, but the Mattaway debt alone has a $1 million impact on the budget. So what we have had to do is cut contributions to reserves to be able to do that.
Follow up, Mayor Sidney. So my fear is then, and I hear what you're saying, okay, we found the money somewhere else, but is that money going to be there for the next 30 years? So that's my fear. We lower the tax levy this year, because we found money somewhere else, but then in year 2, we find the money again, but in year 3, we don't find the money, and then all of a sudden our taxes, the tax levy goes way up, and then year 4, 5 is okay, and then 6, 7, and then year 29. That's my fear, that you found the money this year, but you're not going to find the money in the years to come. So is it better to take the hit now and just rip the Band-Aid off and say, yeah, we got to pay for Mattaway now? So is it better just you know where I'm going with this?
Certainly. And I've had the same conversation with Acting Treasurer Jackson. Reserves will still be healthy at $11 million at the end of 2014, despite what we've put in and what we've taken out. However, at the end of 2020, it does say 2014? Oh, it's all coming back to me now. As Celine Dion would say. That being said, we have limited capital in all other areas. You'll see there's no truck here to be, we're not buying any fleet this year. Equipment is very minimal. There's really a lot of facilities being done or studies. At some point, some of that work, some of those, our vehicles are aging, we'll have to replace them. So your reserves, I think at the end of the year, are still going to be in a healthy space at 11 million, but we know that due to the infrastructure deficit that we have and the aging infrastructure, we're going to need as many reserves as possible to help offset that. And we do have debt room, but there is a ceiling to be able to use debt and taxation. So where the biggest impact has been is we've cut in half, essentially, or close, the contributions to reserve, and those contributions to reserve fund future capital. So it will be, and every 1% on the levy is $100,000, but we've cut contributions to reserve in excess of from over $3 million to just over $1 million. So that's where we've been able to find the difference. And to your point, once we get a 10-year capital plan, we will find that the reserves will not be sufficient to pay for all the road work we want to do, for instance. So yes, it's a bit of a shell game, but in terms of affordability, we tried, and the direction we had at 3%, that's why we're at 9% after growth. But yes, if council is willing to look at it, what you would do is you would increase contributions to reserve, understanding that that's what pays for road work. So one shave and pave in the town of Renfrew is $700,000. People say, oh, no, it's not. Oh, yes, it is. So to redo Monroe, including the pipes below it, is $5 million. That's in 2023 dollars. By the time we get to it in 2025, it might be $6 or $7 million. It's the reality of the marketplace that we're in. We're in a competitive marketplace where we put out tenders and bidders bid. So one road costs, a simple shave and pave is costing $750,000. A total rebuild of a road can cost anywhere between $2 to $5 million, depending on the scope of the work. So that requires money and requires investment.
Did you have anything to follow up on? No? Okay. Councilor McWhorter?
Through you, Mayor. For you, CEO Tremblay, I'm pretty sure you know where this is going, because I'm sure you expected. I did this last year. If we did nothing, like the cuts you got were out of the reserves, but I didn't hear anything cut from operations. So if we were okay with this, we would just pass this tonight. But since we're going to look at it, we've got a month to kill. I think the challenge should be for the rest of council and myself to find 1.42%. Now, with that said, I asked you last year for 2%, and you texted me and said you found it. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say you could do it again. So we need a challenge. We need to not just pass this blindly. I think we need to look at it and find our savings. So the challenge to my fellow councillors is find me 1.42 or 1.42%, which would get us down to 8. Is it doable? I don't know. But we need a challenge, and I think we need to try. And I'd like to get a text from Rob later saying he found it.
And just to follow up on that, I think that's the way this is set up, I think, has given us the opportunity to do that. So we table it today. It goes back to committees. All council can go to those committees. Those committees are public. And that is the opportunity if we can. I know that the staff have done very well at cutting it already, but that at committee level gives the opportunity for that. And then when it comes back to a committee of a whole, there's more discussion on that as well. So, Deputy Treasurer?
Through you, Mayor. we've sat down with all department heads, and just so you know, through operating alone, we cut back on 10%, and then cut back on the reserve transfers. So I don't know if we want to say where we started, but it was high. 27.5% is where we started, and we got it down to 9.42%. So we'll look again, but I think department heads and staff have really gone through the budget, but we will look again as we go through each committee. But we have done, and staff and department heads have done a lot of number crunching, and thankfully we were able to bring it down that much, which I've never heard of, but Rob was beating us up. No, I'm just kidding.
I appreciate everything staff has done, but for me, we have a month to look at the budget at committee level. I think the challenge is out there for the guys, and this isn't on you. This is on us to find savings for you. So, otherwise, we might as well just pass it tonight. So,
Councillor Legree.
Through you, Mayor Sidney, just a comment, I guess. So I agree with Councillor McWhirter. I just want to caution that you can cut too much stuff too, and then it gets into a snowball effect where you're not buying stuff this year. You know, if you put off buying a tandem this year, and then 3 years down the road we need 2 or 3 of these trucks now, right? So I get what you're saying about watching, and I pay taxes in the town of Renfrew, so I want the levy as low as possible too, but I just want to make sure we're not cutting too much now, and it's going to kind of, like Councillor Dick said, it'll snowball, and then a couple of years down the road we're going to have a massive increase, right? So just a comment. Thanks.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Thank you very much to you and to the staff and the CAO for the countless hours you've been wrapping your head around these numbers, so I thank you for that. We're going to move on then to reports arising from committee. And there is no corporate finance or HR report. So moving on to D.3.1. So let me get up here. The Renfrew Town Council approve an amendment to Procedural Bylaw 95-2022 to provide for the advanced distribution of closed session materials 48 hours in advance and after the meeting. Mover, please. Councillor McWhirter, seconded by Councillor MacDonald. I will turn it over to our clerk for the report.
Okay, so originally this report had come forward in December. Sorry, I'm beeping all over the place. To take a look at.
That's Councillor Sabalski.
Sorry, Councillor noted for the record that Councillor Sabalski is now joining us, and if that can be brought up on screen just to see who's on. That's to you guys in the back. Okay, sorry, me again. Okay, so. Originally, a request was brought forward back in December to redo or to look at a procedural bylaw change to incorporate the distribution of closed item material a minimum of 48 hours in advance of the meeting, as well as the retention of it for 48 hours post-meeting. At that time, it was requested, or it was kind of noted that once the material is out, there is no secure measure for it. And a request was made to do further research to determine if alternative measures could be placed to allow that the document itself be secure from printing, manipulating, sharing, anything like that. So part of my report, you have my original report that came forward on the agenda, as well as a supplementary memo. I'm just pulling that up. And from kind of what I've done talking to others in the industry, as well as kind of some research I've done, couple different options for full secure kind of distribution, I guess you want to say that. There is a program, it's called Digify. It allows that secure website or secure login to the website. Every document and every individual that's on there is kind of, when they access the document, it's noted. If the document is shared, printed, edited, those are all, it's all tracked that way. So it basically It gives a way of tracking the document, tracking the security of it. It's dynamic watermark, so every individual who accesses the document, it identifies those individuals separately. So that alone is an extra cost of $300 a month, which would allow, again, the distribution for all closed item materials. That is the staff recommendation if the security of the document is the priority. So in my supplementary memo, there's other options, and then our current procedure, which is documents are provided in closed session, they are distributed at the time, they are handed back, they are disposed of at that time. Any questions?
Any questions from council?
Sorry,
Councillor
Mayor Sidney, are we debating this? Like, are we doing a vote on this?
Yep.
Okay,
So just to clarify,
yeah,
to go forward with the bylaw amendment, which is what's on the agenda, which is what Mayor Sidney just read out,
Yeah.
right? It's the bylaw amendment would be the secure distribution, 48 hours in advance and 48 hours afterwards. So to vote on and approve that would be the accepting the Digify distribution.
Which would include $300 a month.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'll start the debate then.
Okay.
So I reviewed it, and personally, I think the way we do it now is fine. You know, we get the documents, and I think bottom line is, and I think myself and some of the council members, we don't do this enough. If we don't feel we don't have enough information at that time, we should put it off for 2 weeks. So that's where I'm coming from here. You know, we've been doing this over a year now, and every closed session, the papers come in front of us. Mayor Sidney's been great in letting us kind of just relax and read over it and do our thing. And if we don't feel comfortable with some of the decisions we have to make, we ask the mayor to put it off for 2 weeks, and then we debate that and vote on that. So I will, tonight I'll be voting for option 4 and keeping it the same, and I just thought I'd share my thoughts. Thank you.
Councillor Legree?
Through you, Mayor Sidney, it would be nice, like Councillor Werther said, to get this information 48 hours in advance, but not for a $36,000 or $4,000 yearly price tag. I think we've been in and out of enclosed quite a bit the last year, but there's been massive change within the town, and I'm hoping going forward things kind of settle down and we don't see as much closed stuff, you know, so big decisions. So I would, I'm going to support option 4 also. Thank you.
Councillor McWhorter?
Just a point of reference, how much did we pay for eScribe? Because this is on the same system. If it's $300 a month, and well, I thought you said it would be through eScribe if I read it right.
So one of the options, sorry, through you, Mayor Sidney. One of the options noted on the memo is an option for distribution through eScribe. eScribe does have the capability of doing kind of a document distribution. The documents are Word and PDF versions, so there's no security in those documents other than the password embedded. So there's no way to track or or to pull back. So again, that's why it's listed as an other option. But the full tracking security distribution, that's a separate. It's a web-based program. It's a secured site. Login credential requirements, and then, like I said, each individual is. Their access to it and the access to their documents. So whether it's council, whether it's legal. I'm trying to think what the word, but like legal counsel, anybody could, they would have their own individual login credentials, and those credentials are tracked.
If I can just add. And just to add, and the clerk's team did a good job on this, the solution that we're recommending would track if the document is printed, shared, forwarded to other parties. So the reason why we hand it out at the meeting and take it back is because it's highly sensitive information that is either regarding a legal matter, a claim against the town, or a negotiating position. So yes, there's been a lot of organizational changes, but we're allowed to go in close for very specific restricted items. So if documents are going to be provided outside this meeting and not taken back, I think the direction that was asked of us when this item was postponed was how would we securely provide that. What we're saying to you is eScribe does not provide the level of security or tracking necessary to provide those documents in advance, and that we would use this solution. That being said, council may be fine with using eScribe, but staff feel that that's not adequate in terms of the ability for a council member to print the document, share it with others, forward it to other parties, save it for later when these documents are highly important and should be preserved, and that's why we have the current process. I should also note, just back to that yes, we are hoping to minimize going into close. We only go in close when we have to, and for instance, with recent reorganization, we did go to council about 3 times, so twice in September, once in October, and outlined for council over three sessions the impact. So we would gladly do that again on controversial matters, but there's a reason why we go in closed, and the protection of that information is very important. And we're very worried and want to take all due diligence necessary to ensure that that information is not leaked or not provided to other hands, and which is why the common practice across most municipalities, if I can say I've been doing this for 23 years, is to hand it out at the meeting and to take it back, and it's the easiest way to do that. So that's why you have the options before you. But to Councillor McWhirter's point, yes, we could use eScribe. It just would not be tracking if the documents are printed, shared with others, saved. It would not be doing any of that. You would just be having it through the system, but it wouldn't allow us to track what happened within those windows.
Review?
So the vote yes means we change it, and we take option 1. To vote no means it remains the present system.
Correct.
As it's stated right now.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none?
Should we do a recorded vote?
Well, we can, or I can just say all in favor, all opposed.
All right, let's do that. Good idea.
So all in favor of this motion? Hearing 1. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Councilor 6. Sorry, I forgot you're up there, Councilor Swalski. So that is defeated?
So the motion is defeated then.
Thank
So
you,
there'll be no amendments. And I will pull the bylaw listed further down on the agenda.
Okay. Moving on to D.3.2. That Renfrew Town Council adopt the 2024 corporate work plan, which will serve as a basis of the CAO's 2024 performance goals and objectives, and receive the 2023 annual report. Mover, please. Councillor Legree, seconded by Grieve Emo. I will turn it over to the CAO for the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the corporate work plan and my goals and objectives, unfortunately, there's a lot of them, as they were the previous year. Those were circulated to council in advance by email and will be added to the agenda. I just want to thank the entire staff team, because what you'll see with this, why we're calling it a corporate work plan, I'm held accountable for the entire work of the staff team, but you'll see that multiple staff teams will be working on multiple items. And the work plan as directed does include follow-up from all of the service delivery reviews that we've done and many of the master plans. So we don't do those just so that they sit on a shelf. We want to make sure that they're operationalized, and there are a number of items. And so we've worked through those with the chair of the Corporate Finance and HR Committee, Revimo, and I'm not sure if he wants to speak to them. In addition, we've attached a year-end report, and thanks to Rudy Cadlick for pulling it together. It has been a very busy year, and we have accomplished a lot. So I want to thank the staff team for the work that they do. It's not easy. I should say to people that think that being a municipal worker It does have its benefits, certainly, but it's a hard job. But I want to thank the entire staff team, frontline workers, our management staff, our supervisors for all the work that they do and the commitment they have to the town and understanding the work that needs to be done. I should say this is how we implement the strategic plan in addition to the budget, so it's an important document and has been circulated to council for feedback in advance.
Review?
Thank you. The end-of-year work plan is an important document because it shows what's been completed, and the projects and tasks were part of when the CEO joined us. I developed a work plan with 25 items, with the idea it would be an 18-month work plan. And those were things that had to change the structure, update a lot of practices. And so that's been completed now. And then, as you know, we took the various reviews. We also took some of the master planning stuff and weaved it into the new work plan. And so the idea now is that the work plan is tied to divisions, whereas before it was a generalized, when there was one, it was a generalized plan. And the work objectives trickle down from the CAO through the directors, and then the results are bottom up. And so the accountability is there, as well as the timeline. So it's a very new structure for us, but it's the next step to making the organization prompt and to get things done. And then also it's the last step in the CAO model, from the transformation from the five quasi-CEOs to the CEO model. So we're on the last leg of that now. So now we're moving towards accountability and measuring people and their performance. So, thank you.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you, council. Moving on to D.4, Facilities Maintenance and Operations. There is nothing coming, but I would like to ask Chair Legree if he has anything he'd like to talk about from that meeting.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. No, there's nothing. It should be noted that the January 9th meeting was cancelled as there was no items to discuss, and the next regular scheduled meeting will be February 13th. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to D5, Fire, Emergency and Protective Services. Again, nothing coming to council, but Chair McWhorter, do you have anything you would like to share regarding that meeting?
Sure, thank you, Mayor Sidney. We held our meeting on Tuesday, January 16th, 10 a.m. There was 2 presentations given by Fire Chief Guest. The first was their monthly update for fire services, and the second was the last update concerning our bylaw services contracted out to MLES. And just a reminder to everybody that our committee meetings can be viewed on YouTube should anybody wish to check them out entirely. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to D.6, Community Services and Economic Development. Revimo, if you would like to, as acting chair, do you have anything you'd like to add before we go on?
Thank you. We met January the 18th, and it went rather smoothly because there were 2 of us, Councillor Legree and myself, and we agreed on a lot of things. So we had a presentation from the downtown Renfrew Business Improvement Area, and they talked to us about their new structure, their new board, and their new way of governing things, and then also outlined their budget for the coming year. We had a presentation from McDougall Mill Museum from the board, and again, they talked about the need for the town to take over the operation and management of the museum. And they were quite complimentary about some of the work that had been done over the last 3 years on the roof and the windows, but recognized that they were running out of volunteers, and also the need to continue the transition to a curator-driven model, sorry. And so that was the gist of their presentation. And then we had information and a presentation from Community Services Division, which highlighted event at Mattaway recently, and they also made reference to upcoming events. Some of them you're seeing right now, and some of the outreach that they're doing with the community. And so there's a number of things like a young cooking class, dancercise, healthy eating workshops, and any number of other things. So they noted a total of 300 registrations for programs through the town of Renfrew between December 12, 2023 and January 18, 2024. So a really good uptake on that. And then finally, we had a presentation from the library as well. Really good numbers coming out of the library. And then we moved to the Economic Development Advisory Committee terms of reference, and I think those are in your package for this evening. And then we had a request for a designated sidewalk on behalf of Woodland Métis tribe. So that's been sent to the committee for a recommendation. And that's all I have to report, Your Worship.
Great, thank you. Moving on to D.6.1, Economic Development Advisory Committee Terms of Reference. The Renfrew Town Council approved the terms of reference for the Economic Development Advisory Committee. Mover, please. Councilor McWhirter, seconded by Councilor Legree. Any questions on these terms of reference, Council? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to D.6.2, Downtown Renfrew Business Improvement Area Board and Management Appointees. The Renfrew Town Council, 1, received the 2023 Board of Management Annual Report for the Downtown Renfrew Business Improvement Area. 2, received the proposed 2024 Board of Management Draft Budget for the Downtown Renfrew Business Improvement Area. And 3, endorsed the appointments of directors for the Downtown Renfrew Business Improvement Area Board of Management for the remainder of the 2022 to 2026 council term. Mover, please. Councillor Andrew Dick, seconded by Councillor McWhirter. Any questions regarding this? Councillor Andrew Dick.
Just a comment, Mayor Sidney, and through you, I just want to publicly acknowledge again, I know we've done it before, but the way the BIA's turned it around in the last couple of years and just seeing what's happening in the downtown core is absolutely unbelievable. You know, the Freaky Friday is just a small example of how we're exploding. I saw a video, I won't say the town, but I saw a video today online about a small town like Renfrew, and they had a big winter festival, and it was absolutely unbelievable. And I just know that someday Renfrew's going to get to that level. And so I just want to thank everybody with the BIA that's involved, and keep up the great work. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Sidney, I just want to thank my fellow councillors for adding me onto the board, along with Councillor McDonald. So I'm looking forward to working with them. Thanks.
Anything else? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to external boards. Where is it? The Renfrew Power Generation 2023 Q4 summary report be received and filed. So mover for that?
No.
No? Just noted? Okay, perfect. Thank you. You have oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Just very quickly touch on it. So just to draw council's attention to the midway down the first page, the power generation operations, all the logs are eventually removed from Golden Lake Dam and Lake Clear Dam. Those are still manual, so that means the staff go up and take those out as necessary to meet the targets for the Boncher River Water Management Plan, which RPG has responsibility for. Infrastructure projects, I think you can be aware that, or will remember, the Golden Lake Dam, which is one side in North Laguna Wilberforce, and the other side is in Pikwakanagan. And so we're in the process of re-cementing the face of that dam and some of the runs, and then also making it easier to get the logs in and out, as well as the decking on it. So we're entering phase 2 of that. It's going fairly well, and it's working on, and it's on budget. Environmental, there's an annual eel report, and that was sent in. There's, I think, 3 reports, eels, and then 2 fish reports during the year that have to go forward to the ministry. We're working on some property. the Renfrew Power Generation, Renfrew Hydro, and the town of Renfrew have a mishmash of property down near the old, the present water filtration plant. And so that's being sorted out so that people actually own, the town will end up owning where the plant is, and then some of the easements that Renfrew Power Generation needs will become theirs. And application was made to the small hydro program, which allows us to generate more power through to the smaller, older units, and that'll just bring in a little extra revenue. Upcoming activities, the IESO, there's still some discussions with IESO about the rates for electricity. As you remember, in about 4 years, the rates are scheduled to change, and we're in the process of trying to negotiate something a little better, which generates enough revenue to support the Renfrew Power Generation. As I said, Golden Lake project is going to phase 2, and the drawdown on all the lakes is completed at this time, and then we're working on our operating budget and our capital budget. And Councillor Legree sits with me on that. Did I miss anything? Your Worship, that's all I can report.
Great, thank you very much. Moving on to F, confirmation of council minutes, that Renfrew Town Council confirm the minutes of the regular meeting of council dated January 9th, 2024. Mover, Councillor Legree, seconded by Councillor McWhirter. Any questions on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you, council. On to G1, communications and petitions. I don't have anything on here.
So G1, just for noting, it's a public information session that will be held on, correct me if I'm wrong, February the 7th, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Visitor Information Center. It's regarding the Dominion Street, Lynn Street and 8th Street project, which includes the water main, sewer, sidewalk, and road reconstruction. So again, it's a public information center, so if you want your opinion on the project, please head out. The team will be there waiting and can walk you through any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Clerk. I didn't have the date on here, so I couldn't tell you when it was. Moving on to motions of which notice has previously been given. H1, Councillor Andrew Dick. Whereas the town of Renfrew has a visitor information center located at 190 Mask Road, and whereas council has previously directed staff to move forward with the potential inclusion and diversity mural, and whereas the town of Renfrew prides itself on being a welcoming community, therefore be it resolved that the Renfrew Town Council directs staff to bring forward possible renaming options for the visitor information center and report back to the Facilities Maintenance and Operations Committee on implementation. Mover, please. Councillor Andrew Dick, second by Councillor Legree. Any questions on this? Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. Through you, I'll just make a comment on it since it was my motion. Seeing that we are moving forward with doing stuff out by the caboose, that's where our information center is, I just thought it'd be appropriate time to possibly rename it. We discussed a few names, and then I said, you know, I don't think we should just pass a motion to name it. I think I'd really like to see staff come up with some great ideas. Maybe, you know, a contest with the town. Maybe we can rename it after someone. I have no idea. I just thought it would be better if we investigated a little more than just us deciding the name. So I'm excited about it because I know that's just not a nice name, and it's time to move forward with that name. So hopefully staff can come back to committee with some really good ideas on what they're proposing, and we can go from there. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to H2, Council McDonald's vote of non-confidence. Whereas on Tuesday, the 19th of December 2023, Council received the interim finding of Mattaway third-party review, and whereas based on information learned, that Council has responsibility to be accountable and to the community, and whereas the town of Renfrew taxpayers need to be aware of where council stands regarding the Mattaway project, whereas Mayor Tom Sidney served as former chair of Parks and Recreation from 2014 to 2022 and currently as mayor from 2022 till present, now therefore be it resolved that Renfrew Town Council express it has lost confidence in Mayor Tom Sidney's leadership, giving his responsibilities for the Mattaway expansion project and its major and substantive issues as chair of the former Parks and Recreation Committee, serving as councillor from 2014 to 2022 and mayor since 2022. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Legree. Turn it over to anybody have comments?
Recorded vote too.
Okay. Recorded vote.
We'll do that after debate.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Councillor McDonald, you
Go
want to
ahead,
go ahead?
Mayor, through you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I prepared a statement to read. The motion is a result of the independent third-party Mattaway investigation. The relevant issues of this motion is that this was, and I'm using the mayor's words here, this was his baby and his project. Second is the fact that he held the senior leadership role as the chairperson for the Parks and Recreation Committee for 8 years. This is a leadership position within the structure of council. Further, he was also part of the special ad hoc committee that was specifically set up to steer this Mattaway expansion. For this entire project, he was part of the inner decision-making process that implemented his vision for Mattaway. With this position comes responsibility and accountability. Is Mayor Tom Sidney to be blamed for everything wrong with Mattaway? Absolutely not. There's plenty of blame to be shared with others. In November of 2022, this current council was sworn in. Very quickly, the 5 new councillors had questions regarding the $5 million overrun reported for the Mattaway from the previous council. The only 2 explanations provided by the mayor was COVID and the cost of steel. We shortly realized the mayor did not have a good handle on the Mattaway project, even though he stated it was his baby. In fact, he was not able to provide any relevant information. At no time did the mayor take any leadership in trying to get us answers to our questions. Further, he didn't provide any plan to even deal with this Mattaway situation. Mayor Sidney left us no choice but to request from CAO Tremblay a plan to move forward that included an investigation. We keep hearing COVID was partially responsible for the increased costs, and of course it was. COVID had an effect on the price of steel as it did with everything else. But COVID and the cost of steel cannot be used as an excuse for increased costs when this project was carelessly rushed forward in the middle of COVID. During this time, we already knew that the supply chain had issues. The costs were drastically increasing. The Butcon proposal itself referenced COVID issues. Regarding the contract signed with Butcon, it appears that it was rushed and recklessly entered into. Now, how can you blame Butcon when we voluntarily entered into the contract? We entered into a contract where there was no realistic deadline and no cap on expenses. The town of Renfrew had never done this type of contract before due to the unpredictability and the uncertainty of this type of contract. They were warned by various professionals not to enter into this type of contract. Further, the mayor, along with the leadership team, didn't fully know what they wanted. The plans were not even complete. I will now be referring to the Town of Renfrew YouTube channel dated the 21st of June 2021, starting at the 1 hour and 24-minute mark. For context, during this time frame, Director of Parks and Recreation Kevin Hill, who's now retired, is bringing forth the final presentation of the Mattaway project to Council for a vote. As noted by Kevin Hill at the 2 hour and 18-minute mark, the plan was to have a grand opening for October 2022, conveniently just in time for an election. This process appears to have been recklessly rushed to meet this unrealistic and arbitrary opening date. To establish this point of view of a rushed contract at the 2 hour and 13-minute mark to the 2 hour and 18-minute mark, Kevin Hill talks about working with tight time frames, that he's still working on other plans as we speak, that there's lots of balls in the air that we are juggling at this time. Remember, with these 4 timestamps, Kevin Hill is simply following the direction of Chairperson Tom Sidney and Council. Kevin Hill is updating the Council on the direction they have given him. The full plans were not even close to being completed. There were still lots of balls up in the air. The town of Renfrew had incomplete drawings and unsigned contracts, but we went ahead anyway. Regarding blaming the previous senior management team and using the term institutional failure and the term silos is not fully correct. Part of this institutional failure was a consequence due to the actions of Mayor Tom Sidney, along with others on the Mattaway leadership team. These individuals failed the town of Renfrew by not following the actual policies, procedures, and best practices that were established to protect the town from this type of situation. This is where the failure took place within the institution. Further, this could still take place with the current CO process if elected officials and staff did not follow existing policies, procedures, and best practices. I want to be very clear. It was the people involved who failed our town of Renfrew, not necessarily the process. And this is my concluding statement. The information we have received about the incompetence, the negligence, and the complete lack of due diligence exercised towards this Mattaway project is extremely frustrating, and it's disturbing. This was Mayor Tom Sidney's project and his baby. The mayor was an active, integral part of the Mattaway leadership team, and as such shares the responsibility of this situation with others. This is not about a lessons learned and will do better exercise. This was a multi-million-dollar total financial failure of the Mattaway project. There was a total disregard for the proper stewardship of taxpayers' money. They disregarded established policies, procedures, and best practices. They didn't know what they wanted. Designs were not even finished. How could any reasonable person take any financial quote seriously? This is where the institutional failure occurred. This inner circle leadership team and Mayor Tom Sidney facilitated the actual failure. Thank you for your time, and this is the foundation of my motion regarding non-confidence of the Mayor Tom Sidney. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gray?
Through you, Mayor Sidney, I would like to read a statement too. Tonight, I'm supporting the motion of non-confidence in the Mayor, firmly standing for accountability, transparency, and well-being of our community. After carefully reviewing both the closed and open sessions featuring insights from Tammy Crothers from WSCS, it is abundantly clear in my mind that the Chair of Recreation lacked a thorough understanding and control over the Mattaway expansion. In the June 21st, 2021 Council meeting, the Chair of Recreation, along with the majority of Council members, notably failed to inquire about critical aspects when Mr. Hill presented the expansion plans. In that vital Council meeting and presentation, the Chair's engagement seemed more focused on upsetting then Councillor Sandy Hines about tennis courts rather than asking the tough questions regarding the expansion, leaving much to be desired in terms of accountability and understanding of the Mattaway expansion project. On the August 18th, 2022 Council meeting, which I would encourage everyone to watch on YouTube at 1:03, Council was notified that the project already was over budget by almost $5 million. Even though there were a couple of questions asked by Council, the Chair of Recreation didn't ask any questions. It seemed to me that the election just down the road with the project was time sensitive. I'm sure it would have been nice to have a grand opening just prior to the election. The remarks I keep hearing from the Mayor that he didn't know, he wasn't told that, and everyone left him out in meetings is unacceptable. This is the hard-working taxpayers' money it goes to pay for this facility. We have families struggling to pay bills and keep food on the table. The food bank is lined up around the building, and businesses in Renfrew are struggling to keep their doors open. Yet the disregard for the ballooning budget makes me absolutely livid and frankly pissed. I hear the questions all the time, what has changed with the new council? Well, I can tell you it was pretty clear that the project was going sideways. So we've hired a project manager to oversee the expansion. We've assigned the town's engineer, Director Aslan, to help with the day-to-day management. And we started a working group that meets every Monday to discuss the overall project, which I chair. As the chair of the Mattaway Working Group, with weekly formal meetings and almost daily conversations of different aspects, it's beyond me how the Mayor can provide us with limited information on the project. I find myself compelled to endorse the vote of non-confidence today due to the glaring absence of leadership, knowledge, and vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Andrew Dick?
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. I also have prepared a statement for this motion. I want to make it clear that my statement is not a personal statement directed towards Mayor Sidney as a citizen of the town of Renfrew. My statement does not question Mayor Sidney's love for this town or his vision to make Renfrew a more inclusive and welcoming place. My statement pertains to his leadership role as the head of the Recreation Committee, part of the ad hoc committee, and as a councillor during the Mattaway expansion project. I joined council with the intention of representing the citizens of Renfrew, fostering transparency within the community, and holding individuals accountable for their roles. In my opinion, for as long as I can remember, there was never any accountability for the actions taken by town staff and council members. Everything was brushed under the rug. Taxpayers would often shake their head believing that nothing would ever change. My vote tonight is not about the blame game, who is at fault. My vote tonight is about accountability and responsibility, from what I understand of the situation. And from what taxpayers have stated to me via email, phone calls, and in-person meeting, I feel I am voting in the best interest of this community. Upon taking office over a year ago, this council had immediate concerns regarding the expansion project. Unfortunately, council members were provided with very little information from staff and Mayor Sidney. When we initially voiced our concerns and requested information about the project, the Mayor exhibited no initiative or support to address these concerns. He stated on many occasions, "This was my baby," referring to the expansion project. This comment was frustrating to me, as if this was his baby, why did he know nothing about the project? This lack of assistance from the mayor left me feeling frustrated and disheartened, as I was unable to provide the community with answers. I felt unheard and neglected, as did our community. It was only after council took matters into their own hands and proposed a motion for an independent investigation from a third-party audit that Mayor Sidney suddenly displayed interest and claimed to be on board. Mayor Sidney has served as the chair of the Rec Committee for the past 8 years and has also been involved in the ad hoc committee associated with the expansion. On various occasions, he has expressed that this project was his responsibility. It is deeply concerning that as the chair of the Recreation Committee and member of the ad hoc committee, he seemingly had no knowledge of what was occurring under his watch. Questions should have been raised about the increasingly over-budget situation and failure to meet timelines. It is essential that the head of the Rec Committee and a member of the ad hoc committee to be knowledgeable and actively involved in matters concerning our community. The statement made by Mayor Sidney stating, "I did not know, and I want to know what happened also," arrives far too late for the taxpayers. These questions should have been asked and addressed over the past few years. The lack of effort and attentiveness towards his responsibility as the chair of the Rec Committee, councilman, and member of the ad hoc committee raises doubts about his ability to make informed decisions and effectively represent our community's interest. A leader should be proactive, engaged, and well-informed regarding the expansion issues that impact the taxpayers. A leader should proactively address the needs and concerns of the taxpayers, advocating for them and supporting them on how their tax dollars are spent. However, the delayed response and lack of advocacy for the Mattaway expansion from the mayor shows serious flaws. Given all these circumstances regarding this motion, which pertains to Mayor Sidney's involvement with the Mattaway expansion only, I have lost confidence in our mayor. Therefore, I will be supporting this motion tonight. Thank you, Mayor Sidney.
Thank you. Any other members of council? Councilor McWhorter?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I didn't prepare a statement. I had all the confidence in the world my fellow councillors would cover every base. I guess a lot of people were thinking non-confidence on the mayor now, today. Why? Well, past record shows non-confidence. Should he be chastised for that now? Unfortunately, he was put in a position, one mayor, he had the best possible voice that he could use to tackle this job, this runaway train. As mayor, you can set the agenda. You can hit the ground running. He had a background in what was going wrong with the place. He should have had a plan in place when he became mayor. First meeting should have been, we have a problem, let's tackle this. I remember new councillors asking at the first meeting, when are we going to get a meeting about this? And they were put off till the end of January, and then demanded a meeting, and then took the bull by the horns. And kudos to my fellow councillors for what they did. That's what was needed. As a good leader, that's what should have been done, and that is confidence and lack of. So that's why I'm going to vote in support of this.
Councillor Zabolski, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, through Mayor. Just doing a check 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Sidney, and apologies to the group that's in attendance tonight that I'm not physically there, but I have a very short statement I'd like to make. And the decisions I make in council have always been based on information received and followed up with more personal research and questions verifying the information provided. If I were to vote in favor tonight with the non-confidence motion solely regarding the new MyFM Center and everything surrounding it, I feel I would be contradicting myself, and that's just not how I work. I feel without the final presentation of the third-party review, I'm not completely informed to say I have absolutely no confidence in only one single individual. I do strongly believe there will be certainly a need to be held accountable in the end. However, we're just not there yet. Now, this said, Mayor Sidney, please don't receive a false notion that I have full confidence in you, because that's not necessarily the case either. As a leader, I truly believe you have significant improvements to make, and I really hope you can make these regardless of the outcome tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Revimo?
Thank you. I can't support the motion this evening because the report's not here yet. And I think when the report gets here and we have a chance to digest it, I think there'll be a series of actions, and I would hope that there would be a motion put forward outlining the actions, because I think there's going to be a number of them. I don't know that I like the process where if someone has a complaint or can, request a motion of non-confidence. So where do we stop with it? If you don't have a structured process, if somebody sends me an email complaining about somebody, do I table it? And then the other piece is, I'm not sure there's been, I don't know how many times members of council have spoken to Mayor Sidney and asked him questions away from the dais, or sorry, away from his desk on one-to-one. So again, that's worrisome that if we establish that, someone can file some sort of a motion, and I'm not suggesting it's done out of disrespect, nor is it a personal attack, I'm not suggesting that, but it could devolve into that if it becomes a common document. And then we've established that we don't really have to do any research, we don't really have to talk to the person. And so I'm not sure that's what we want to do at this time. So I don't like it because it's too early, and I don't like it because it's not an established process, because I think it could be abused. I know this time last year, when you went around the table, there were at least 4 people running for mayor. So I'd hate to see in 2026, how somebody start tabling motions like this to try and disrupt somebody. Thank you.
Councillor Gray.
Through you, Mayor Sidney, I'm just wondering if CAO Tremblay could touch, there seems to be a miscommunication in the public of if this motion gets passed tonight, what it actually means. If you could just touch on that, please. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. What this motion is an expression of an opinion or a position by council. It's really that is the intent here. The Municipal Act specifies the role of the mayor, and nothing will change with regard to that in terms of if this motion is passed. I should note that there's no mechanism in the Municipal Act to remove a member of council, whether it be the mayor or a councillor. The province can't remove a council member. A council can't do it. Residents can't do a recall petition. There is no mechanism in the Municipal Act to remove a member of council. The only mechanism that is in there is if a member of council misses 3 consecutive months of meetings without a leave of absence, and then they're removed automatically. So that is the only provision in the Municipal Act. I should also note that the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act allows for the removal of a council member by a judge only based on a breach of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. So if somebody is benefiting kind of financially as a result of their position on council. So there are very limited tools, either by the province, the town, or the community to remove a member of council. And again, even the Integrity Commissioner, who enforces our code of conduct, can do an investigation within the limits established in law and in the code, but can only recommend sanctions the council will then impose. So just to be very clear, this motion has no ability to remove the mayor, is simply an expression of an opinion or a position that the council would be making.
Any other questions or comments from council? I'm just going to make a brief statement because I do agree that I do think it's a little bit premature with not having the final report, and I do believe the final report will have a lot of detailed information that will be surprising and more understanding of what happened and what went wrong on some different levels. Basically, I will be doing an official statement when the official report is here. But mainly, I just want to thank my family for supporting me through this. It's been one hell of a month, and I'm sure it'll continue on for a few more weeks. But I look forward to serving the community for the next 3 years and doing my best to improve if that's what needs to happen, and continue to learn. But my official statement will be when that full report comes out, so we can make an educated, informed opinion. And with that, I do have some concerns that This may set precedents, so should a project be delayed or come in over budget, should a chair of a committee be worried that we're going to do a non-confidence vote on you? So that's just, I think we could be setting precedents here. So anyway, with that, that's all I'm going to say. And then I will, if nobody has any other comments or anything, I will ask for review.
Yeah, I think I should clarify. Council has agreed they won't comment on the report with any substance because we don't want to be seen to be trying to influence or accidentally making a statement that shows up or in alignment with the final report. So we've been very careful not to say anything about the report because we don't want to appear to be influencing it directly or indirectly. So that's why the comments have been quite careful.
Thank you. Anything else? Hearing none, I'll ask for the recorded vote, please.
Councillor McDonald, as you were the one who called it, start with you.
In favor.
Councillor Legree.
In favor.
Councillor McWhirter.
In favor?
Councillor Andrew Dick.
In favor?
Councillor Zabalski. Sorry.
Opposed.
Revimo.
Opposed.
Mayor Sidney.
Opposed.
It is 4-3 for the yeas. Motion is carried.
Thank you. Moving on to motions requiring suspension of rules. I don't think we have any. Any new notices of motion? Councillor McWhirter.
Through you, Mayor. I am giving notice of motion with the intention of presenting a motion at the regular council meeting dated February 27th. That's to give staff time to prepare to make changes to council positions for the 2026 election and incorporating adjusted pay schedules to reflect these new positions, specifically as it relates to adding a new councillor position and eliminating the obsolete reeve position. Every other municipality has done this years ago, and it is time Renfrew did also, in keeping with the changes being made with the new CAO system and staff realignment. Thank you.
Thank you. Now moving on to K, closed. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, with your permission, we'd recommend that we move to bylaws, and so that the members of the public can depart, and then we could move to closed session, which has a smaller grouping. So if that
works.
is unanimously agreed to.
All right, moving on. That bylaws listed on the agenda of January 30th, 2024 be taken as read and passed. 13-2024, signing authority for banking and related purposes. 15-2024, Downtown Renfrew Business Improvement Area Board of Management appointees. 16-2024, Economic Development Advisory Committee terms of reference. And 17-2024, confirming. Mover, please. Councillor Legree, second by Councillor McWhirter. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to K1, or K. That Renfrew Town Council convene in closed session with authorized staff remaining in the room pursuant to the following section of the Municipal Act 2001, 2, Section 239K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local boards, more specifically how it relates to attainable housing project. Mover, please. Councillor Legree, second by Councillor McWhirter. All in favor? We are now enclosed at 6:41. We'll take a 5-minute break so that people can move around, and we will reconvene.